Who could imagine that a billionaire CEO would step into a crowded ER with blood on his hands, only to be treated by a single mom who had no idea who he really was? Harper Lane thought she was just stitching up another patient that night. But when black cars filled her street the next day, and the same man stood on her porch with a truth that could shatter her world, Harper realized her life and her daughter's future would never be the same. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. The emergency department pulsed with chaos, a constant hum of beeping monitors, the shuffle of rushing feet, and voices raised over the cries of pain. Harper Lane barely noticed anymore. At 28, she had learned to survive on the rhythm of adrenaline, caffeine, and the thought of her 6-year-old daughter waiting for her at home. Tonight was worse than most. A multi-car accident on the interstate had flooded the hospital with patients, and every corner of the ER seemed packed with bloodied faces, groans, and the smell of antiseptic that clung to her scrubs. Her messy bun sagged, a few strands of chestnut hair plastered against her damp forehead. Dark circles shadowed her hazel eyes, but her focus never wavered. She had long since mastered the art of exhaustion, moving from curtain to curtain, responding to every urgent call like an instinct honed through repetition. Curtain 3 needs sutures, Dr. Phelps called, not even looking up from his chart. Harper grabbed a sterile kit, the weight of it so familiar she could almost wield it in her sleep, and pushed aside the blue curtain, expecting the usual: a drunken brawler or another car crash victim with glass in his skin. But the man sitting on the bed made her pause. He wasn't slouched, complaining, or whimpering like so many others. He sat rigidly, as though his spine were steel, his tailored suit jacket shredded and soaked with blood at the sleeve. His posture screamed control, his presence undeniable, even here. Strong jawline, dark hair streaked with the faintest touch of silver at the temples, and eyes, ice blue, sharp, evaluating everything in their path. "Good evening. I'm Harper, your nurse tonight," she said, masking her surprise with professionalism. He extended his hand with reluctance. A deep gash ran across his palm, the skin torn and slick with drying blood. His voice, low and cultured, carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. "This isn't necessary. My private physician should have handled it." Harper slipped on her gloves. "Too late now. And if you want that hand to work tomorrow, you're going to let me stitch it." For a moment his eyes stayed locked on the wall, detached, as though he wanted to be anywhere but here. Then, slowly, he shifted his gaze to her face. Harper felt the weight of it like a physical touch. He was studying her, not just her movements, but her composure, the way she held herself in the storm of chaos. It made her pulse quicken in a way she hadn't expected. She cleaned the wound carefully, her fingers steady even as his jaw tightened with every pass of the antiseptic. He didn't flinch, but she noticed the subtle flex in his shoulders, the faint lines deepening at the corner of his mouth. For all his stoicism, he was still human. "You've done this before," he murmured, watching her work. "Most would have made this twice as painful." Harper allowed herself the smallest smile. "This is the ER. Gentle doesn't always make the cut, but I try." 8 stitches later, she tied off the thread and secured the dressing. "There. Keep it dry, clean, and come back in 10 days to have them removed." He flexed his fingers cautiously, then looked up at her. "Thank you, Ms. Lane." The way he said her name, reading it off her badge, but pronouncing it with deliberate care, sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. For a fleeting second, she wondered who he really was. His suit might have been torn, but the fabric was expensive. His watch, though cracked, gleamed with understated wealth. He didn't belong here. Before she could reply, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with gloved hands, her heart clenching at the message. "Chloe has fever. 101.2. Please call." Her pulse spiked. Chloe. Her daughter never got sick like this. Harper's mind instantly jumped to possibilities: flu, infection, something worse. She didn't have the luxury to stay calm when her little girl needed her. Your child? The man asked quietly, noticing the shift in her face. Harper swallowed hard, her throat dry. Yes, my daughter. She's sick. Something flickered in his eyes. Concern, sharp and immediate, but contained. Then finish later. Go now. She needs you more than I do. The certainty in his tone startled her. Patients begged to keep nurses longer, demanded attention, argued over every stitch. He, instead, released her, ordered her to go. Yet beneath the command there was understanding. Harper nodded once, quickly, her chest tightening with both gratitude and unease. Take care of that hand. And don't ignore the instructions. I won't, he said, and for the first time, his gaze softened. Minutes later, she was out the door, trading the harsh fluorescent lights for the cold slap of rain in the parking lot. Her beat-up Honda groaned as she coaxed the engine to life. Every red light felt like an eternity as she rushed back to the small rental house where Chloe was waiting. She didn't look back at the hospital, didn't think about the mysterious man in the torn designer suit. But he was thinking about her. And less than 24 hours later, Harper Lane would open her front door to find him standing on her porch, with a line of black cars stretching down the street and a truth that would shake the foundation of everything she thought she knew. Morning sunlight seeped through the thin curtains of Harper Lane's modest rental house, chasing away the restless shadows of the night. She had barely slept. Chloe's fever had broken around dawn, but Harper had spent most of the night in the chair beside her daughter's bed, holding a cool cloth to her forehead and whispering reassurances until the little girl drifted into shallow sleep. Now, sitting at the small kitchen table, Harper clutched a mug of cheap instant coffee. It was bitter and lukewarm, but it kept her upright. Chloe sat at the table too, her blonde curls tangled, still pale from the fever, but awake enough to nibble at cereal while cartoons played faintly from the living room TV. The sight gave Harper a fragile sense of relief, but it was mixed with the gnawing anxiety of knowing she had called in to use one of her few sick days. She rubbed her eyes, wondering how she would stretch her paycheck to cover both the missed shift and Chloe's looming school expenses. Every decision felt like balancing on a wire over an endless drop. She never regretted choosing her daughter over anything else, but some days the weight of it all made her chest ache. The doorbell rang. Harper frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone. No deliveries, no visitors. Setting down her mug, she padded to the door and opened it to find a sharply dressed woman in a fitted suit standing on the porch. The woman's expression was crisp, professional, her dark hair pulled into a perfect bun. In her hands, she held a slim black tablet and a small, elegantly wrapped package. "Miss Harper Lane?" the woman asked, her voice clipped but polite. "Yes," Harper said cautiously, tightening her grip on the doorknob. "I represent Mr. Grant Ashford. He asked me to deliver this to you personally." Harper blinked. The name didn't register immediately. "Mr. Ashford?" The woman's expression remained unreadable. "You treated him last night. He was impressed with your care." Before Harper could protest, the package was pressed into her hands. She stared at it, silver paper, tied with a ribbon. Far too elegant for a thank you gift from a patient. "That's really not necessary. I was just doing my job." "Mr. Ashford insists," the woman said smoothly. Then, with a curt nod, she stepped off the porch and walked briskly toward a waiting sedan at the curb. Within moments, the car was gone, leaving Harper standing there with the package in her hands, her heart racing. Inside, Chloe looked up from her cereal. "Who was it, Mommy?" "Just someone dropping something off," Harper murmured, placing the package on the kitchen table. She hesitated before untying the ribbon and opening the box. Inside lay a beautiful silver watch, far too expensive for someone like her to even dream of owning. Beneath it, a handwritten note on thick stationery. "Time is precious when you're raising a child alone. Thank you for sparing some of yours for me. G.A." Harper's pulse quickened. How did he know she was a single mother? She stared at the neat handwriting, at the weight of the watch glinting in the morning light. Gratitude mixed with unease. She set it back in the box and closed it quickly, as though it might burn her fingers. The day dragged on quietly. Chloe perked up enough to draw pictures at the coffee table while Harper tried to rest on the couch, her thoughts circling back again and again to the mysterious man from last night. His sharp blue eyes, his commanding presence. And now, this gift that seemed more like a message than a thank you. By noon, Harper had almost convinced herself to put it away and forget it happened, until the sound of engines shattered the quiet. At first it was a low rumble, growing louder by the second. Harper frowned, standing to peer out the front window. What she saw made her jaw drop. Sleek black cars, dozens of them, pulling into her street in perfect formation, one after another until the entire block looked like something out of a government raid. SUVs, sedans, all gleaming and dark, each one sliding into place with mechanical precision. Men in suits stepped out, their movements synchronized, their expressions cold and alert. "Mommy," Chloe's small voice piped up as she scrambled onto the couch to see. "Are those police cars?" "No, sweetie," Harper said quickly, though her voice shook. "They're just regular cars." But nothing about them was regular. Her heart hammered in her chest as she watched more and more vehicles arrive until she stopped counting. She backed away from the window, unsure if she should call the police, pack Chloe into the car, or hide in the basement. Every instinct screamed danger. Then the central SUV's door opened. The man who stepped out was impossible to mistake. The same man she had stitched the night before, though this time his torn suit was replaced by a perfectly tailored charcoal gray one that likely cost more than her yearly salary. His injured hand was neatly bandaged, his presence commanding even across the distance of the yard. Grant Ashford. He crossed the driveway with calm, measured steps, as though this absurd display of power were entirely normal. The doorbell rang again, echoing through the small house. Harper froze, her hands trembling, then forced herself forward and opened the door. He stood there, tall and imposing, his icy blue eyes fixed on her. "Ms. Lane," he said with a nod. "I hope I'm not intruding." Harper gaped at him, then gestured wildly toward the street, her voice breaking. "What is this? Why are there?" Her words faltered. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Closer to 50, actually. My security team tends to be thorough." "Security team?" she repeated weakly, the word foreign on her tongue. Grant Ashford straightened, filling her doorway with his height and quiet authority. "I believe I owe you a proper introduction. Grant Ashford, CEO of Ashford Global." The name hit her like a wave. Even she had heard of Ashford Global, the technology and defense conglomerate worth billions. The man she had stitched up in a crowded ER was one of the most powerful people in the country. And now he was standing on her worn welcome mat, surrounded by an army of black cars, asking to come inside. Harper's stomach churned, her gaze flickering from Chloe's wide eyes peeking from behind the couch to the billionaire in her doorway. "Why are you here?" she whispered. Ashford's gaze softened, but only slightly. "Because, Ms. Lane, whether you realize it or not, your life has already changed. And I have a proposition that concerns both you and your daughter." Harper's pulse roared in her ears. She stepped aside, her voice barely audible. "Come in." And as Grant Ashford crossed her threshold, she felt with terrifying certainty that nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Grant Ashford stepped into Harper's modest living room as though he belonged there, though his custom suit and quiet aura of command clashed violently with the secondhand furniture and scattered children's toys. The room smelled faintly of lavender detergent and crayons, a home built on love, not wealth. Chloe peeked nervously from behind the couch, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly in her arms. "You have a lovely home," he said smoothly, though the words sounded practiced. Harper rushed to clear a stack of laundry from the sofa, cheeks burning. She was acutely aware of her worn sweatpants, the faded t-shirt she had slept in, her hair tangled from the long night. It's not. Well, it's small, she muttered. But it's ours. Would you like coffee? She winced inwardly at the thought of serving instant coffee to a man who probably drank beans imported from estates she couldn't even pronounce. He waved it off. No, thank you. He sat with measured precision, his bandaged hand resting lightly on his knee. His movements were controlled, careful, like someone used to carrying more weight than others realized. Harper sank into the chair opposite him, her heart pounding. Mr. Ashford, what is going on? Why are there? She glanced toward the window at the line of cars, 50 of them outside my house. His expression grew serious. Because nothing about my current situation is simple, Ms. Lane. She swallowed, leaning forward. Then explain. He studied her for a long moment, his icy gaze sharp but not unkind. The injury you treated last night wasn't from a broken window. Someone tried to kill me. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? He leaned forward, his voice low, steady. If I had checked into a private clinic, news of the attack would have spread within hours. Records can be accessed, security breached. I couldn't risk it. The people after me are resourceful, and they are relentless. Harper's breath caught. Her stomach twisted, fear slamming into her chest. And what does this have to do with me? Because you, Ms. Lane, displayed two qualities I cannot afford to overlook: discretion and resolve. You didn't pry, you didn't gossip, and when your daughter needed you, you left without hesitation. That told me everything I needed to know about your priorities. His eyes flicked briefly to the diploma on her mantle. Harper Lane, nursing, Georgetown University. You're capable, you're resourceful, and you're fiercely protective of your child. She stared at him, heat rising to her cheeks. I do what I need to do for Chloe. That's what any mother would do. Exactly, he said quietly. Which is why I'm here. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed violently against the table. She picked it up with trembling hands. Harper? It's Dr. Phelps. Her supervisor's voice was strained. Something happened this morning. Someone broke into your locker at the hospital. Nothing seems stolen, but your personnel file was accessed. Address. Emergency contacts. Everything. Harper's blood ran cold. What? Why would? There's security footage, he continued. Someone in scrubs, but their face was covered. Police are reviewing it now. I thought you should know. Her hand shook as she ended the call. She looked up to find Ashford watching her intently, his jaw tight. Someone broke into my locker, she whispered, her voice thin. They know where I live. My contacts. Everything. Grant's expression hardened, his voice shifting into the controlled tone of a man accustomed to command. Then my suspicions were correct. They're moving faster than I anticipated. Ms. Lane, I'm afraid you and your daughter may already be in danger. As if on cue, one of the suited men appeared in the doorway, speaking into a discreet earpiece. Sir, unknown vehicle circling the block. Third pass. Harper shot to her feet, adrenaline surging. Chloe, she's safe, Grant said firmly, rising to his full height. But we need to leave. Now. Harper grabbed Chloe, who whimpered in confusion. Mommy? What's happening? Harper forced a trembling smile. We're going on a little trip, sweetheart. Just for a while. Chloe looked up at Grant with wide blue eyes. Are you the man Mommy fixed? Something flickered across his face, a crack in the polished armor. Yes, he said softly. Your mother saved me. Chloe, with the certainty only a child could have, hugged her rabbit closer. Mommy fixes everyone. She's the best. For the first time, genuine amusement touched Grant's lips. I don't doubt that. But then he turned, his voice once more clipped and urgent. Ms. Lane, pack essentials only. 5 minutes. Her instincts screamed to argue, to resist letting this stranger upend her life. But the memory of her ransacked locker, the unknown car outside, and the sheer force of his presence left her little choice. Chloe's safety outweighed everything. 5 minutes, Harper said hoarsely. She moved fast, throwing clothes into a duffel bag, stuffing Chloe's favorite pajamas and a well-worn picture book on top. The silver watch from that morning glinted on the table. Almost without thinking, she slipped it onto her wrist. Not because of its value, but because it felt like the one tangible piece of control she could carry into the unknown. For minutes and 37 seconds later, Harper emerged with Chloe in her arms and the duffel slung across her shoulder. Grant's men guided them quickly to the armored SUV at the center of the formation. Engines roared to life in perfect sync, the convoy pulling away from the curb with military precision. Through the tinted glass, Harper watched her small house shrink in the distance, her stomach twisting. Would she ever see it again? Grant sat across from her, his bandaged hand resting lightly on his knee, his gaze unreadable. "You're safe now," he said, though his tone held no illusion. "But this is only the beginning." Harper tightened her hold on Chloe, her mind racing. She had stitched up a stranger last night. Today, she was running for her life with one of the richest men in America. And deep down, some unspoken instinct told her this wasn't just about protection. There was something else, something he hadn't yet revealed. And when he finally did, Harper knew her world would never be the same. The convoy cut through the city like a silent storm, black vehicles moving in perfect formation, engines humming low and steady. Harper sat rigid in the back of the armored SUV, Chloe curled against her side with her rabbit tucked beneath her chin. The child's eyelids drooped, exhaustion finally catching up to her, but Harper's mind spun too violently to rest. Across from her, Grant Ashford was the picture of composure. His suit jacket was immaculate despite the bandage on his hand, his posture straight, his gaze alternating between his phone and the darkened windows. He looked like a man accustomed to moving armies with a single call, yet for all his power, there was an edge of calculation in his eyes, as though even he wasn't certain what waited at the end of this drive. "Where exactly are we going?" Harper asked finally, her voice tight. "Ashridge Manor," he replied, not looking up from the screen. "My estate in the mountains. Isolated. Secure. You and your daughter will be safe there." Harper bit back a sharp retort. Safe? How could anything be safe when strangers had already broken into her life, when her child's name and address were in unknown hands? But Chloe shifted in her sleep, and Harper swallowed the anger, pressing a kiss to her daughter's damp curls. Survival came first. Hours passed. The city lights faded into winding roads, tall pines looming against the night sky. Finally, the convoy turned onto a private drive that snaked through the forest before opening onto a breathtaking vista. Ashridge Manor was less a house than a fortress disguised as a masterpiece. Glass and stone sprawled across the mountainside, illuminated softly against the dark. Towers of steel and light blended seamlessly with the wilderness, as though the earth itself had bent to accommodate its master. Guards moved discreetly along the perimeter, their presence subtle but undeniable. "Welcome to Ashridge Manor," Grant said quietly as the SUVs pulled into a circular drive. Harper tightened her grip on Chloe. To Chloe's half-awake eyes, it looked like a castle, and she whispered, "Mommy, is this where princesses live?" "Something like that, sweetheart," Harper murmured, though her stomach nodded. The car doors opened, and a woman with silver-streaked hair stepped forward, elegant in her tailored attire. "Mr. Ashford, welcome home," she said warmly before turning to Harper and Chloe. "I'm Mrs. Harrington, the house manager. We've prepared rooms for you both in the East Wing." Harper hesitated on the threshold of the grand entry hall. Marble floors gleamed under soft light. Museum-quality art lined the walls, and subtle evidence of high-tech security blinked from corners she doubted most visitors would notice. Chloe's eyes widened in awe, but Harper only felt out of place, like a trespasser in a life too grand to comprehend. Their rooms were more luxurious than any hotel suite Harper had ever seen. Chloe's adjoining room had been hastily but thoughtfully arranged with books, art supplies, and even a teddy bear waiting on the bed. Harper stared at it in disbelief. "How did they know?" she whispered. Mrs. Harrington's smile was kind but knowing. Mr. Ashford is nothing if not thorough. Once he decided to bring you here, he ensured everything was ready. After dinner, lavish, served in a private dining room where Harper could barely touch her food, she tucked Chloe into bed, lingering to stroke her daughter's curls until the child drifted into peaceful sleep. Only then did she slip out, unable to rest. The house was quiet, most of the staff having retired. A faint glow drew her down a long corridor to a library with soaring shelves and a crackling fire. Grant stood at the window, a glass of amber liquid in his good hand, the firelight carving shadows into the sharp planes of his face. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning. "There's too much I don't understand," Harper replied, stepping inside. "Why we're here, who's after you, and why you seem to know so much about me." He finally faced her, his blue eyes catching the firelight. "What would you like to know, Miss Lane?" "Harper," she corrected, her voice firm despite her unease. "If I'm living in your house, caring for your injury, I think we can drop the formalities." A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Harper." She stepped closer, her nurse's instinct kicking in as she nodded toward his bandaged hand. "May I?" He extended it without protest. She carefully unwrapped the gauze, examining the stitches she had placed. The wound was healing, but the tissue around it was red, warm to the touch. "You should have mentioned the pain," she said, rewrapping it with practiced efficiency. "It's showing early signs of infection." Grant studied her, his voice low. "Is that what you think your job is? Just my nurse?" Harper froze. "Isn't it?" He set down his glass, straightening. "I needed a reason to bring you here that wouldn't raise questions. Your skills are valuable, yes, but they're not why you're here." Her chest tightened. "Then why am I here?" He walked to a desk, retrieving a folder. From it, he pulled a photograph and handed it to her. Harper's heart stuttered. The woman in the picture was striking, blonde hair, sharp features, and piercing blue eyes that looked hauntingly familiar. "This is Dr. Evelyn Cross," Grant said quietly. "A brilliant scientist. Years ago, she worked for my company. We had a relationship. When it ended, she disappeared. Later, I discovered she was pregnant." Harper's throat went dry. "I don't understand." Grant's gaze pierced hers. "Harper, Chloe is not your biological daughter. She is mine." The photograph slipped from Harper's fingers. Her knees weakened, and she sank into the nearest chair. "No, no, that's not possible. I gave birth to her. I have the records, the certificate, all carefully fabricated," Grant interrupted gently. "Evelyn wanted her child to grow up safe, away from my world and its dangers. She chose you, Harper. Out of countless candidates, she selected you to raise Chloe." Harper shook her head, denial and fury rising in equal measure. "You're saying everything I know about my daughter's birth, about my life, is a lie?" "You are her mother in every way that matters," Grant said firmly. "But biologically, Chloe is mine. And now, the people who killed Evelyn know about her research. They believe her child, our child, holds the key." Harper felt the world tilt, her reality cracking under the weight of his words. She thought of Chloe asleep in the next room, her small face peaceful, unaware that everything she knew about her life had just shattered. "You had no right," Harper whispered, her voice breaking. "No right to let me raise her without the truth." "No," Grant admitted, his expression shadowed by regret. "But right now, there isn't time for what's fair. There is only time to keep Chloe safe. And for that, I need your trust." Harper clutched the edge of the chair, her chest heaving, torn between rage and fear. She had built her entire life around Chloe. Now, the ground beneath her feet felt like it was crumbling. But one truth cut through the storm. She would protect her daughter, biological or not, at any cost. The morning after the revelation, Harper woke before dawn, her body heavy with exhaustion, but her mind raw and restless. She sat at the wide window of her east wing bedroom, watching sunlight spill over the peaks. Ashridge Manor looked serene against the pale sky, but inside her chest chaos churned. Grant Ashford's words echoed endlessly. Chloe is mine. Every memory of Chloe's birth, every sleepless night, every scraped knee patched, and every fever soothed. Harper had lived those moments. To think of them as part of a deception felt unbearable. And yet, when she tiptoed into Chloe's adjoining room and found her daughter snoring softly with her rabbit clutched under one arm, Harper knew one thing with absolute clarity. No truth, no secret could change the fact that she was Chloe's mother. A soft knock came at the door. Mrs. Harrington entered, tablet in hand. "Good morning, Ms. Lane. Mr. Ashford asks that you meet him in the medical suite at 10. He wishes you to examine his hand." Harper nodded, her voice tight. "And Chloe? She'll be with Mrs. Jenkins, the tutor. Perfectly safe." The word safe rang hollow, but Harper followed anyway. The medical suite was beyond anything Harper had imagined. Sleek equipment gleamed under spotless lights, rivaling the hospital she had just left behind. When Grant entered, he looked as precise and controlled as ever, but she noticed the faint strain in his jaw. She unwrapped his bandage, her hands steady though her mind stormed. "The infection is mild. You need to be more careful," she murmured, applying antibiotic ointment. He studied her. "You're angry." Harper met his gaze sharply. "Wouldn't you be? My entire life with Chloe rests on a lie." "Not the part that matters," Grant countered. "Your love for her is real. That cannot be fabricated." Harper rewrapped his hand with quick, efficient movements. "Charlotte's file explains how she orchestrated everything. But why me? Why choose me?" Grant's eyes shadowed. Evelyn was brilliant, but paranoid. She believed her work would make her a target. She wanted Chloe to live far away from privilege and danger. She combed through hundreds of candidates before she chose you. A nurse with no powerful family ties. A woman who would give her child love instead of influence. Before Harper could respond, a sudden alarm blared through the manor. A shrill, mechanical wail that froze her blood. Grant moved instantly to a wall panel, pressing his palm against the scanner. Screens lit up, revealing security footage. Men moving along the outer perimeter, slipping through shadows. "The sensors have been breached," he said, his voice transforming into pure command. "We need to move." "Where's Chloe?" Harper gasped, her heart slamming against her ribs. "In the East study with Mrs. Jenkins." "Come." They sprinted through the corridors, Grant's security detail converging from every direction. When they reached the study, Harper nearly cried in relief at the sight of Chloe hunched over a workbook, her rabbit on the table. Mrs. Jenkins looked up calmly, though the alarm still screamed. "Mr. Ashford?" "Protocol drill," Grant lied smoothly. "We're moving her now." Chloe looked up, her blue eyes wide. "Mommy? Is something wrong?" Harper forced a smile. "It's just a game, sweetheart. Hide and seek. We're going somewhere special." Grant led them to a heavy steel door hidden behind a paneled wall. It opened into a secure chamber that looked more like a cozy den than a bunker. Couches, shelves of books, a private air supply. "You'll be safe here," he promised. "I'll coordinate with security." But Harper caught the flash of steel in his eyes. This was no drill. For an hour, she tried to distract Chloe with puzzles and storybooks while straining for sounds beyond the thick door. When the locks finally disengaged, Grant returned, a small cut marking his forehead. "The situation is contained," he said. 3 armed intruders gained entry. One of my men was compromised. They've been detained." Harper's stomach twisted. "Compromised? You mean betrayed?" "Exactly," Grant said grimly. He crouched to Chloe's level, softening his tone. "You were very brave today." Chloe pointed to his forehead. "You got hurt again." Grant almost smiled. "Just a scratch. Nothing compared to what your mother fixed for me." Harper felt a pang at the word mother. He had acknowledged her role, even after the truth. But there was no time to linger. "It's clear we can't stay here," Grant continued. "If one man was turned, others may be too. We need to move somewhere they'll never expect. Somewhere Evelyn kept hidden." Harper's pulse spiked. Where? Her research facility, he said. Remote. Concealed. And the only place left where her work and Chloe will be safe. No, Harper whispered, clutching Chloe's shoulders. You want to take her straight into the center of this? Use her to unlock Evelyn's research. Grant's gaze was steady, unwavering. I want to end this. And the only way is to get there before our enemies do. For a long moment, Harper couldn't breathe. But Chloe leaned against her, small and warm, trusting her without question. Protecting her daughter meant making impossible choices and trusting a man who had already torn her world apart. Harper exhaled shakily. Then we go? But if anything happens to her? Grant's voice was quiet but fierce. I will die before I let harm come to her. The words rang with such conviction that Harper almost believed him. Almost. That night, under the cover of darkness, the convoy left Ashridge Manor behind. Ahead lay Evelyn's hidden laboratory, and with it, the truth that could save them, or destroy everything Harper thought she knew about family, loyalty, and love. The convoy slipped across state lines under the cover of darkness, headlights dimmed, movements precise and rehearsed. Grant had cut the security detail in half, insisting only the most loyal men remain, personally vetted through years of service. Still, Harper couldn't relax. She sat in the back of the SUV with Chloe curled against her side, the child's small fingers wrapped tightly around her rabbit and Harper's hand. Every bump in the road made her heart lurch. Every flicker of headlights behind them set her on edge. Grant rode opposite them, his expression carved in stone. He gave updates in low tones to the driver, his phone buzzing occasionally with coded messages. Yet Harper noticed the way his gaze often drifted to Chloe, softening whenever she stirred or mumbled in her sleep. For a man who lived behind walls of steel, those fleeting cracks in his armor unsettled her most. After hours of tense silence, the convoy turned off the main highway and onto a narrow forest road. Trees closed in around them, tall pines blotting out the sky. The lead vehicle stopped at what looked like an abandoned cabin, weathered with sagging, shutters hanging crooked. Harper frowned. This is it, she whispered, skeptical. Grant's mouth curved faintly. Appearances are the best disguise. The guards fanned out as he led Harper and Chloe to the cabin. Inside, the musty scent of dust and mildew filled the air, until Grant pressed his palm against a hidden panel. With a hiss, part of the wall slid aside, revealing a gleaming steel corridor lit by pale white lights. Harper's breath caught. It was like stepping into another world. The corridor opened into a sprawling laboratory, glass panels, biometric scanners. Sleek consoles humming softly. It was sterile, futuristic, and alive with the energy of secrets long buried. Harper felt a chill run down her spine. This is where Evelyn did her most important work, Grant said quietly, and where she stored the culmination of her research. Chloe peeked from behind Harper's leg, her eyes wide. It looks like a spaceship. Grant crouched to her level, his bandaged hand resting gently on his knee. In a way, it is. And you're the one who can help us fly it. Harper stiffened. Don't you dare put this on her. But Grant's voice was calm, steady. Harper, Evelyn secured her files with biometric locks. Only her DNA, or her child's, can access them. I wish it were different. But if we don't open that vault, others will find a way. And they won't hesitate to use Chloe for their own ends. Harper's stomach twisted. She crouched to meet her daughter's wide eyes. Sweetheart, it's like a game. Just putting your hand on a screen. Nothing scary, I promise. Chloe nodded solemnly, clutching her rabbit tighter. If it helps you, Mommy. Together, they approached the central console. Its glass surface glowed faintly as Chloe pressed her small hand against the scanner. The machine hummed, lights flickering in sequence. Then a computerized voice filled the room. Access confirmed. Welcome, genetic inheritor. Panels shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a sleek external drive sealed in reinforced casing, and a thick envelope marked with Evelyn's handwriting. Grant exhaled sharply, relief flooding his features. This is it. Her entire body of work and the evidence we need. He carefully removed the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. Harper saw his expression harden as he read, then soften into grim resolve. He handed the papers to her. Her eyes skimmed the precise, clinical handwriting. Evelyn's words were chillingly clear. If you are reading this, I am likely dead. The man responsible is Victor Hale. Harper's stomach dropped. Victor? Your COO? Grant nodded, fury flashing in his eyes. He was working with pharmaceutical rivals, planning to steal Evelyn's work and sell it for billions. And when she resisted, he silenced her. Harper's hands shook as she clutched the letter. And he came after you. After Chloe. Yes, Grant said. But now we have the proof to bring him down. Before Harper could reply, a deafening crack split the air. The lab's alarms blared, red lights flashing across the steel walls. Harper instinctively pulled Chloe into her arms. Grant barked into his comms. Report. Static hissed before a voice cut through. Perimeter breached. Armed hostiles. They knew the route. Harper's blood turned to ice. How? You said you vetted everyone. Grant's jaw clenched. Someone else has been feeding them information. The lab doors groaned as impact rattled them from the outside. Grant grabbed Harper's arm, pulling her and Chloe toward an inner chamber. Move. They raced through the hidden corridors, alarms shrieking around them. Harper's heart hammered as Chloe whimpered against her shoulder, the child's rabbit dragging along the floor. Grant, Harper gasped. They'll keep coming. What if they breach? They won't get her, he said fiercely, his blue eyes burning with resolve. Not while I'm alive. Behind them, the reinforced doors buckled again under heavy fire. The conspiracy had reached its peak, and the walls of Evelyn's sanctuary were no longer enough. Harper tightened her hold on Chloe, her voice breaking into a whisper only the child could hear. Hold on, baby. I won't let them take you. In that moment, she knew the fight was no longer just Grant's battle against betrayal. It was hers too, because Chloe was her daughter, by choice, by love, and by every sleepless night she had survived for her. And if Victor Hale wanted to claim her, he would have to go through both Harper Lane and Grant Ashford first. The steel doors shook again, sparks flying as heavy rounds tore into the reinforced frame. Harper pressed Chloe's head against her shoulder, shielding her from the deafening noise. The alarms wailed, red lights strobing across the laboratory walls. Grant moved like a man born into crisis. His voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. Seal secondary access points. Hold them at the perimeter. His guards scrambled, but Harper could see it in his eyes. He knew they wouldn't last long. Then the doors burst inward with a deafening crash. Figures in black stormed the lab, weapons raised. And at their center stepped a man Harper had never seen but instantly recognized from Evelyn's letter. Victor Hale. His sharp suit was immaculate despite the carnage around him, his expression cold, eyes glittering with triumph. Well, Victor drawled, his gaze sweeping the room before settling on Chloe. So this is the precious little key. Rage burned in Harper's chest. She clutched Chloe tighter, stepping back as Grant moved instinctively in front of them. You won't touch her, Grant said, his voice low, dangerous. Victor smirked. Still playing the protector, Grant? You've hidden her long enough. Evelyn's work belongs to those who can use it properly. And with the girl's DNA, I can unlock everything. Fortune, power, a new world. You were always too sentimental to see the opportunity. Grant's bandaged hand clenched into a fist. You murdered Evelyn. You tried to murder me. And you dared to threaten my daughter. Correction, Victor sneered. She isn't your daughter. She's leverage. The words sliced through Harper like glass, but before she could react, Grant surged forward. The lab erupted into violence, gunfire echoing, guards clashing in brutal combat. Harper ducked behind a console, cradling Chloe, her breath ragged. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere left to go. Victor moved through the chaos, his gun raised, zeroing in on Harper and Chloe. Harper's blood turned to ice. She tightened her arms around her daughter, whispering fiercely, "Close your eyes, baby. Don't look." But before Victor could fire, a shot rang out from the side. He staggered, dropping his weapon as Grant advanced, fury blazing in his eyes. The two men collided, fists and fury replacing words, years of betrayal boiling over in a violent clash. "Everything you built is mine now." Victor spat, grappling with him. "You'll never touch what matters," Grant snarled. With a final surge, Grant drove Victor against the steel console, pinning him as his men swarmed in to disarm and restrain him. Victor fought like a rabid dog, but it was over. Cuffed and dragged away, his shouts echoed through the lab. "You think this is the end? Others will come. They'll never stop." But Grant's gaze stayed on Harper and Chloe. His chest heaved, sweat and blood streaking his face, but his eyes softened as he knelt before them. "It's over. You're safe." Harper trembled, unable to release her hold on Chloe. "Safe?" she whispered, voice breaking. "You call this safe? You lied about her birth, about everything, and now she's the reason people want us dead." Grant's expression faltered, uncharacteristic vulnerability breaking through. "You're right. I should have told you sooner. I should have been there all along." "But Harper," he looked at Chloe, then back at her. "Whatever Evelyn chose, whatever secrets she kept, none of that changes this. Chloe is our daughter, and I will protect her, and you, until my last breath." Harper's throat burned with unshed tears. She wanted to scream, to rage, to collapse under the weight of it all. But then Chloe lifted her small hand, touching Grant's cheek with innocent trust. "You're not bad," she whispered. "You look like me." The words pierced Harper's heart, and in Grant's eyes, she saw something she hadn't expected. Not just power, not just regret, but a man aching for redemption, for a family he had lost before it began. In the days that followed, everything shifted. Victor Hale was turned over to federal authorities. Evelyn's research secured with institutions she had once trusted, ensuring her work would benefit humanity rather than greed. Grant's enemies scattered, their conspiracy dismantled by the evidence Evelyn had left behind. But for Harper, the true battle was quieter, fought in the stillness of late nights and the fragile beginnings of trust. She could never forget the lie of Chloe's origins. But slowly she began to accept what Grant had promised, that motherhood wasn't erased by biology, and fatherhood could be earned through presence, protection, and love. 6 months later, spring sunlight bathed the backyard of a new house Grant had bought for them. Not a fortress, but a warm, welcoming home near the city. Chloe ran across the grass with a kite, her laughter echoing like bells. Grant guided the string in her hands, his tall frame bent to match her excitement. Harper stood at the porch, watching as Chloe squealed, "Look, Mommy, it's flying." Harper walked down to join them, her smile softening as Grant's eyes met hers over their daughter's head. For the first time, there was no pretense, no walls, only gratitude, respect, and something fragile but growing between them. "I was thinking," Grant said carefully, still helping Chloe steady the kite, "about that clinic you told me you wanted to open. For underserved families. My foundation has already started drawing up plans." Harper's chest warmed. He had listened, not just to her fears, but to her dreams. "Thank you," she whispered. As the kite soared higher, bright against the blue sky, Harper realized how far they had come. From a frantic night in the ER to a battlefield of secrets and betrayal. What had begun as a simple act of bandaging a stranger's hand had forged something unexpected, a family. Not by blood alone, but by choice, trust, and the courage to begin again. And as Chloe's laughter carried into the wind, Harper knew one truth above all others. No matter where their journey had started, this was where it was meant to lead.